My sister was given absolutely everything growing up: brand new cars, private schooling, the whole package. Then right at Thanksgiving dinner she discovered I had $30 million and had an absolute meltdown in front of everyone. My aunt shouted, and my dad just. I spent my entire childhood learning to be invisible. But one Thanksgiving, at my parents' dinner table, I dropped a bombshell that detonated every single assumption they had about me. And the silence? It was deafening. The air that day was thick with the smell of roasting turkey and old money, a familiar scent that usually made my stomach clench. Our dining room, adorned with family heirlooms and polished silver, was already buzzing with the self-important chatter of my relatives, all focused, as always, on my older sister, Charlotte. I watched it all, an observer in my own life, preparing for another holiday where I was simply present. It all started when I was 7. That was the year Charlotte turned 16 and got her first car, a brand new luxury sedan, wrapped in a giant red bow, parked right in our driveway. I remember watching from my bedroom window as she shrieked and leaped into our parents' arms, while neighbors gathered to congratulate them on raising such a special girl. Nobody even noticed me standing there in my thrift store jeans and hand-me-down sweater. Charlotte was always the golden child. 9 years older than me, she arrived when my parents were young and ambitious, still believing they could mold the perfect daughter. By the time I came along, I think I was more of an accident than a plan. The baby books went unfilled. The photo album stopped after my first birthday. My parents owned a moderately successful insurance business in Maryland. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable, or at least Charlotte was. She attended Elmwood Academy, a private school that cost more per year than most people's cars. I went to Willow Creek Public School, 3 blocks from our house, where the ceiling tiles leaked when it rained and the textbooks still had copyright dates from the 1990s. When I asked why Charlotte got to go to private school and I didn't, my mother gave me a look like I'd asked why the sky was blue. Charlotte needs more stimulation, sweetheart. She's gifted. You're doing just fine where you are. Fine. That word haunted my childhood. Charlotte was exceptional, brilliant, destined for greatness. I was fine. For her 17th birthday, Charlotte got a trip to Paris with our mom. For mine, I got a cake from the grocery store and $20. I bought myself a used graphing calculator for school because mine had broken, and I knew better than to ask for a new one. The inequality didn't make me bitter at first. I was too young to fully grasp what was happening. I just assumed this was how families worked: some kids got more because they deserved more. I internalized that logic until it became part of my identity. But I also developed something Charlotte never had: resourcefulness. While she was getting tutored in French and violin, I was teaching myself to code from library books and free online tutorials. While she was spending summers at expensive camps in the Blue Ridge Mountains, I was working at the local grocery store, saving every penny. While she was planning which Ivy League school to grace with her presence, I was applying to state universities and praying for scholarships. I got into the University of Maryland with a full academic scholarship. My parents took me out to dinner at Chili's to celebrate. When Charlotte got into Stanford, with my parents paying full tuition, they threw a garden party for 50 people with a catered buffet and a champagne toast. I ate 3 sliders at that party and left early. Nobody noticed. College became my escape hatch. I double majored in computer science and mathematics, worked 2 part-time jobs, and spent every free moment building my skills. I didn't go home for most holidays. I told my parents I was busy with work or studies, which was true, but mostly, I just couldn't stomach watching Charlotte come home to fanfare and celebration while I got a distracted, "Oh, you're here, too." During my junior year, something clicked. I'd been freelancing as a developer, building websites and apps for small businesses. One client mentioned their company was struggling with inventory management, losing thousands because they couldn't track their supply chain efficiently. I built them a solution over winter break. It was rough, but it worked. They paid me $5,000, more money than I'd ever seen at once. But here's what truly mattered: they told other people about it. Within 6 months, I had 12 companies asking for similar systems. I dropped down to part-time student status and poured everything into building better, more sophisticated software. I slept 4 hours a night, lived on ramen and coffee, and coded until my fingers cramped. The software evolved. I called it Chain Flow, and it became something bigger than I'd imagined, a comprehensive supply chain management platform that could integrate with existing systems and provide real-time analytics. I was 21 years old, running a legitimate tech startup from my dorm room. I graduated with my bachelor's degree at 22. Charlotte had graduated from Stanford the year before and was working at a prestigious marketing firm in Chicago, living in an apartment our parents helped her afford. They were so proud. They'd show people pictures of her corner office like they'd built it themselves. I was still invisible. They knew I'd graduated, knew I was doing something with computers, but the details didn't interest them. When I tried to explain what Chain Flow did, my dad would nod politely and change the subject to Charlotte's latest client presentation. So, I stopped trying to explain. There was one moment, though, that almost broke through my resolve to stay silent. I was 23, home for Easter, one of the rare times I actually made the trip. Charlotte had just gotten engaged to her first fiancé, a lawyer named Ethan, whom my parents absolutely adored. The engagement lasted 8 months before he mistreated her. But that day, she was showing off her ring to everyone who walked through the door. I had just landed my second major contract, a deal worth $340,000 that would let me hire 5 more people. I was buzzing with excitement, unable to contain it completely. Over dinner, I tried once more. "I have some good news," I said during a lull in the Charlotte worship session. My mom looked at me with mild interest. "Oh, did you meet someone, honey?" "No, it's about work. I just signed a really big client." "The contract is, that's wonderful, dear," Dad interrupted, not even looking up from his phone. "Charlotte, your mother and I were thinking we should have an engagement party here at the house. Maybe rent a tent for the backyard?" Charlotte shrieked, and the conversation shifted entirely. I sat there with my news dying in my throat, watching them plan a party for a relationship that wouldn't even last the year. I excused myself, went upstairs to my childhood bedroom, which had been converted into Charlotte's gift-wrapping station, complete with rolls of expensive paper and elaborate bows. I called my business partner, Chloe. She'd been with me since the beginning, a brilliant developer I'd met through a coding forum. "They don't care," I told her, sitting on the floor, surrounded by Charlotte's wedding planning supplies. "Then stop telling them," Chloe said simply. "Olivia, you don't need their approval. Build your empire. Let the work speak for itself." That conversation changed everything. Chloe was right. I'd been seeking crumbs of recognition from people who would never see me as anything more than Charlotte's forgettable little sister. From that moment on, I channeled every ounce of hurt, every dismissal, every forgotten moment into building something undeniable. At 23, I got my first major contract, a regional logistics company that paid me $200,000 to implement Chain Flow across their entire operation. I hired my first 2 employees, both brilliant developers I'd met online, who believed in what we were building. At 24, a national retailer signed on, then another, then another. At 25, I had 47 employees and annual revenue of $8 million. At 26, a venture capital firm offered me $15 million for 30% of the company. I negotiated them down to 20% for $12 million. My lawyer nearly had a heart attack at my confidence, but I knew what Chain Flow was worth. I could have told my family then. I could have shown up at Christmas with news of my success, finally proven that I was more than just fine. But something stopped me. Maybe it was pride. Maybe it was the memory of every dismissive comment, every forgotten birthday, every time I'd been an afterthought in my own family. I wanted to see how far I could go while they weren't watching. I wanted to build something so undeniable that they'd have to see me. So, I stayed quiet. I lived modestly in a small apartment in Denver, drove a compact car, and kept building. At 27, Chain Flow went international. We signed contracts in Canada, Mexico, and the UK. Revenue hit $31 million. I moved into a better apartment, but nothing flashy. I bought a nicer car, a luxury sedan, but kept the compact car too. At 28, the acquisition offers started coming in. Tech giants who wanted to absorb chain flow into their empires, offering obscene amounts of money. I turned them all down. This was mine, and I wasn't ready to let it go. The first offer came from a Silicon Valley behemoth, $150 million, but they wanted to dissolve chain flow entirely and absorb the technology into their existing platform. I would have become an employee, a cog in their machine. I declined within 24 hours. The second offer was $180 million from a European conglomerate. Better money, but they wanted to relocate me to Amsterdam and phase out my entire team within a year. Another rejection. My board thought I was insane. Olivia, these are life-changing offers, one investor said during a tense meeting. You're leaving hundreds of millions on the table. I'm not interested in money that comes with conditions that betray everything I've built, I replied. Chain flow isn't just code. It's a team. It's a vision. I'm not selling out for a check and a pat on the head. 3 weeks later, Technova reached out. Their CEO, Sophia Miller, was a woman who'd built her own empire from nothing. She understood what chain flow represented. We met for coffee in Denver, and she laid out a proposal that respected what I created. I don't want to absorb chain flow, Sophia said, stirring her cappuccino. I want to amplify it. You stay CEO. Your team stays intact. We provide the infrastructure and capital to go truly global. You keep your vision. We give you the resources to make it bigger than you ever could alone. I listened to her pitch for 2 hours. By the end, I knew this was different. The negotiations took 3 months. My lawyers and their lawyers went back and forth on every detail. I fought for my team, ensuring generous retention bonuses and equity packages. I fought for creative control, for the right to veto decisions that compromised our core values. I fought for every single thing that mattered to me. When we finally agreed on $310 million with all my terms met, Sophia smiled across the conference table. You drive a hard bargain. I know my worth, I replied. I've spent my whole life having people underestimate me. I'm done with that. After taxes, legal fees, and setting aside money for my employees' bonuses, I personally walked away with $187 million. I kept $30 million liquid and invested the rest in a diversified portfolio my financial advisor constructed. At 28 years old, I had more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. And my family still had no idea. They thought I was just doing okay with my little computer job. My mom would occasionally ask if I was still programming, as if it was a hobby I might grow out of. My dad once suggested I apply to work at his insurance company, since they needed someone good with computers. Charlotte, meanwhile, had gotten engaged to a hedge fund manager named Noah. The engagement party was at a country club. The ring cost $40,000. My parents were beside themselves with joy. I flew in for the party, gave them a $300 gift card to their registry, and left before the speeches started. Charlotte didn't notice I was gone until the next day. The acquisition closed in October. By November, I'd settled into my new role, signed a 5-year contract with Technova, and started planning what to do with my newfound wealth. I donated anonymously to my old public school, funding a complete technology lab renovation. I set up scholarship funds. I bought my first real piece of luxury, a beautiful house in Highlands Ranch with a view of the South Platte River. But I didn't post about it or tell anyone outside my close circle. Thanksgiving was approaching, and for the first time in years, I actually wanted to go home. Not because I'd softened toward my family, but because I'd realized something. Their opinion of me no longer mattered. I'd spent so long desperate for their validation, their recognition, their pride. But I didn't need it anymore. I'd validated myself. I called my mom to confirm I was coming. She sounded surprised. "Oh, wonderful, honey. Charlotte and Noah will be there, too. Noah's parents might stop by. It'll be such a nice family gathering." A pause. "You're still doing that computer work, right? Are you making enough to get by? Your father knows someone who might be hiring." I smiled at the phone. "I'm doing fine, Mom. Really fine." "Well, that's good. See you Thursday." I packed a bag, including one specific item, the folder containing the acquisition paperwork. Not because I planned to make some dramatic reveal, I genuinely didn't know if I would say anything at all, but because I wanted it with me, a reminder of what I'd accomplished without them. The drive to Maryland felt different this time. Usually, I'd spend the whole trip steeling myself for the disappointment, preparing to be overlooked and undervalued. This time, I listened to music and enjoyed the fall colors. But there was something else, too, a strange calm I'd never felt before. I kept thinking about a conversation I'd had with my therapist, Dr. Lee, the week before. I'd started seeing her 2 years earlier, finally ready to unpack the damage of growing up invisible. "Why do you want to go to Thanksgiving?" she'd asked me. "What are you hoping to get from it?" I'd sat with that question for a long time. "I think I want to see if I still care," I finally said. "If their opinion of me still has power over me. And if it does, then I know I still have work to do. But if it doesn't," I'd smiled, "then I'm free." Dr. Lee had nodded. "Just remember, Olivia, freedom doesn't require their acknowledgement. You don't need to prove anything to them." "I know," I'd said, and I meant it. Now, pulling into my parents' driveway, I felt that truth settle into my bones. I wasn't here to prove anything. I was here to see who I'd become despite them, or maybe to say goodbye to the girl who'd spent so many years desperate for their love. I arrived Wednesday evening. The house looked exactly the same manicured lawn, the same expensive cars in the driveway. Charlotte's luxury sedan had been upgraded to another high-end model 2 years ago. The same chandelier visible through the front window. My mom answered the door with a hug that felt automatic. "Olivia, you made it. Come in, come in. Charlotte and Noah are in the living room. They just got here, too." Charlotte looked up from the couch where she was scrolling through her phone. She'd always been beautiful, tall, blonde, the kind of effortlessly graceful that made people turn their heads. Noah sat beside her, looking exactly like every hedge fund manager I'd ever seen, expensive suit even on a casual Wednesday, perfectly styled hair, a watch that cost more than most people's cars. "Hey, Em," Charlotte said, her attention already back on her phone. "Long time." "Hey," I said, setting my bag down. "How's the wedding planning going?" "Oh my God, it's insane. We're looking at venues for next June and everything good is already booked. Mom's been helping me, thank God. Noah's mom, too. It's basically a full-time job." She said this while literally not looking up from her phone. Dad emerged from his study, reading glasses perched on his nose. "Olivia, good to see you. How's the job?" "It's good. Really good." "Still with computers?" "Yeah, Dad. Still with computers." He nodded, already losing interest. "Well, that's stable work. Good benefits, I hope." Charlotte snorted. "Dad, she's a programmer, not a doctor. The benefits are probably basic." I could have corrected her. Could have mentioned that my benefits package at Technova included full health coverage, unlimited PTO, stock options, and a personal financial advisor. Could have mentioned that my salary alone was $750,000 annually, not including bonuses. Instead, I said, they're adequate. Thanksgiving Day arrived with the usual chaos. Mom had been cooking since dawn, refusing help but also complaining about how much work it was. Charlotte directed Noah around like he was staff, having him move furniture and set up the dining room to her specifications. I helped where I could, mostly staying in the kitchen, chopping vegetables and trying not to get in the way. Aunt Susan arrived around noon with her husband, Uncle David, and their 2 kids. Susan was Mom's older sister, and she'd always been cut from the same cloth, obsessed with appearances and success. Her kids, Kevin and Hannah, were teenagers now, both sporting the kind of entitled attitudes that came from never being told no. Olivia, Susan kissed both my cheeks. Look at you, still single, I see. Don't worry, honey. The right man will come along. You just need to put yourself out there more. Maybe try one of those apps. I'm not really looking right now, Aunt Susan. Oh, nonsense. Everyone's looking. You don't want to end up alone, do you? She turned to Charlotte. Now, Charlotte, tell me everything about the wedding. I want all the details. I retreated to the kitchen. Dinner was called at 3. We all gathered around the extended dining table, Mom and Dad at the heads, Charlotte and Noah on one side with Susan's family, me squeezed in between Kevin and Uncle David on the other. The food was exactly what it always was: turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, cranberry sauce from a can that nobody ate. Comfort food that was supposed to bring families together. Dad said grace. We passed dishes. Conversation started flowing, and as always, it centered on Charlotte. So, Noah, Dad said, Charlotte tells me you just got promoted. Noah smiled modestly. Yes, sir. Managing Director. It's a big step up. That's wonderful. You two are really building a life together. I'm so proud. Dad beamed at them. Thanks, Mr. Peterson. We're very excited about the future. Charlotte squeezed Noah's hand. We're looking at houses in Westchester, something with at least 5 bedrooms, good school district. We want to start a family in a few years. Mom practically glowed. Oh, Charlotte, that's wonderful. You're going to be such a beautiful mother. I watched this exchange and felt something shift inside me. There was no jealousy, no pain, just a kind of anthropological fascination. These people were my family by blood, but they were strangers in every way that mattered. I studied my mother's face as she gazed adoringly at Charlotte, trying to remember if she'd ever looked at me that way. I couldn't recall a single instance. Dad was beaming at Noah like he'd personally selected him from a catalog of perfect sons-in-law. You've got a good head on your shoulders, son. Charlotte's lucky to have you. Noah smiled modestly, but I caught the slight smirk, the expression of a man who knew exactly how valuable he was in this family's eyes. He was the golden son-in-law for the golden daughter. Another achievement for them to display. I thought about my own dating life, sparse as it had been while building Chain Flow. I had relationships, a few serious ones, but I'd never brought anyone home. What would be the point? So they could compare him to Noah? So my mother could make that pinched expression she got when I did anything that drew focus away from Charlotte? No, I'd kept that part of my life separate, protected, just like everything else that mattered to me. Susan leaned forward. What's your budget for the house? We're looking in the $2 to $3 million range, Noah said casually, like he was discussing the weather. Everyone made impressed noises. Kevin asked if they'd have a pool. Hannah wanted to know if she could visit. I ate my turkey and said nothing. And the wedding, Susan continued, have you set a budget for that? Charlotte laughed. Well, we want it to be special. We're thinking around $300,000. Dad's helping with some of it, and Noah's parents are contributing $300,000 for one day. I thought about all the scholarships that money could fund, all the lives it could change. But I kept that thought to myself. You deserve it, sweetheart, Mom said. It's your special day. The conversation continued like this for 20 minutes. Charlotte's wedding, Charlotte's future house, Charlotte's career, Noah's promotion, their perfect life together. I might as well have been a piece of furniture. Uncle David, to his credit, eventually turned to me. So, Olivia, what about you? How's your work going? The table got quiet. Everyone looked at me with vague interest, like I was about to give a weather report. It's going well, I said simply. Still doing the computer programming? Dad asked. Yeah, that's nice, honey, Mom said in that voice that really meant, can we get back to talking about Charlotte now? Charlotte actually laughed. Em's being modest. I'm sure she's doing fine with her little apps or whatever. Little apps? My software was processing millions of transactions daily across 4 continents, but sure, little apps. Actually, I heard myself say, I recently had some changes at work. Oh. Mom perked up slightly. Did you get a promotion? That's nice, dear. Something like that. Charlotte was already looking bored, reaching for her wine glass. Noah was checking his phone under the table. I sold my company, I said. The words hung in the air for a moment. Everyone was still processing, not quite understanding. Your company? Dad's brow furrowed. I thought you worked for someone else. No, I've had my own company for 7 years. Chain Flow. It's a supply chain management software platform. I was the founder and CEO. Charlotte's hand froze halfway to her mouth. Wait, what? I started it in college. Built it up. We had operations in 8 countries last month. I sold it to Technova Solutions. Mom blinked. You sold it? For how much? I took a sip of water, letting the moment stretch. The deal was $310 million. After taxes and other expenses, I cleared $187 million personally. The silence was deafening. Susan's fork clattered against her plate. I'm sorry. Did you say million? Yes. That's not possible, Charlotte stammered. You're a programmer. You live in some tiny apartment and drive a compact car. I still have my compact car, but I also bought a luxury sedan. And the apartment isn't tiny. It's just modest. I also just bought a house in Highlands Ranch. Noah was staring at me like I'd grown a second head. Highlands Ranch? Those houses start at, mine was $4.2 million, I said calmly. Waterfront, 5 bedrooms, 3-car garage. I paid cash. Charlotte's face had gone white. This is a joke. This has to be a joke. It's not a joke. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and showed them the balance in just my checking account. This is what I kept liquid. The rest is invested. Susan screamed, startling everyone. Oh my God, that's real. That's a real number. Mom grabbed the phone from my hand, staring at it like it might bite her. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. Olivia, how? When did this? I've been building Chain Flow since I was 21. 7 years. I've had major clients for 5 years. I just never mentioned it because nobody ever asked. I looked directly at Charlotte. You said I was doing fine with my little apps. You weren't wrong. I was fine. Better than fine. Dad had gone completely pale. But why didn't you tell us? We're your family. Because you never cared to know. Every time I tried to talk about my work, you changed the subject to Charlotte. Every achievement I had was dismissed. Every time I came home, I was invisible. My voice was steady, calm. So, I stopped trying to be seen by you. I built something amazing, and I did it without needing your validation or your help or even your attention. Charlotte slammed her hand on the table. You let us think you were struggling. You let me feel sorry for you. Did you feel sorry for me, Charlotte? Really? I laughed without humor. You never thought about me at all. We would have helped you if you'd needed it. I never needed it. That's the point. While you were getting everything handed to you, the private school, the cars, the trips, the money for Stanford, I was building something real. I worked 80-hour weeks. I taught myself everything. I earned every single dollar. Noah was furiously typing on his phone, clearly looking me up. His eyes went wide. Holy, she's telling the truth. Olivia Peterson, founder of Chain Flow. The acquisition made news. It's all here. Forbes did an article calling her one of the most successful female tech entrepreneurs under 30. Susan grabbed his phone, reading frantically. There are pictures. Olivia at conferences. Olivia meeting with, oh my God, is that the governor? Mom was crying now, mascara running down her face. Olivia, sweetheart, why would you keep this from us? We're your family. We love you. Do you? The question came out sharper than I intended. Did you love me when you forgot my birthday 3 years in a row? Did you love me when you spent $200,000 on Charlotte's education and gave me nothing? Did you love me when I came home for Christmas and you didn't even have a stocking for me because you forgot I was coming? That's not fair, Dad said weakly. Isn't it? Name one thing about my life. One thing that doesn't involve my job. Name my best friend. Name my favorite food. Name anything that shows you've paid attention to me in the last decade. Silence. Charlotte's face was red, tears streaming. You're doing this to hurt me on purpose. You waited until my moment. Until everyone was celebrating my engagement and my life, and you decided to steal it. Your moment? I couldn't help but laugh. Charlotte, every moment has been your moment. Every holiday, every dinner, every family gathering for 28 years has revolved around you. I didn't plan this. I didn't even know if I was going to say anything. But I'm so tired of being invisible. You're jealous. Charlotte shrieked. You've always been jealous of me. I'm not jealous of you, Charlotte. I feel sorry for you. That stopped her cold. What? Everything you have was given to you. Your education, your opportunities, even your job, Dad called in favors to get you that interview, remember? You've never had to fight for anything, never had to prove yourself, never had to wonder if you could make it on your own. And now you're marrying a man who makes good money and planning a life that's comfortable and expected. I paused. There's nothing wrong with that life. But it's not special. It's not extraordinary. It's exactly what everyone expected you to have because it's all you've ever known how to accept, things being handed to you. Charlotte lunged across the table at me. Noah caught her, pulling her back as she screamed obscenities. Susan was fanning herself like she might faint. Mom was sobbing into her napkin. Kevin and Hannah sat frozen, eyes wide. Dad finally found his voice. Olivia, I think you should leave. Yeah. I stood up, suddenly exhausted. I think so, too. I grabbed my coat and bag. As I reached the door, I turned back. They were all staring at me. Charlotte with rage, Mom and Dad with shock and something that might have been shame. Susan with naked envy. For what it's worth, I said quietly, I didn't come here to ruin anything. I came here because I finally realized I don't need you to see me anymore. I see myself. I know what I'm worth. And it has nothing to do with money and everything to do with the fact that I built the life I'm proud of all on my own. I walked out. Behind me, I heard Charlotte wailing, Susan's voice rising in excitement, Mom begging Dad to do something. I got in my luxury car and drove away. My phone started blowing up before I even hit the highway. Charlotte calling and texting, screaming at me through voicemail. Mom crying, asking me to come back so we could talk. Dad sending stern messages about family loyalty. Even Aunt Susan tried to call, probably wanting to know if I'd invest in whatever scheme she was running. I blocked them all. 3 days later, I got an email from Charlotte. It was long, rambling, full of accusations and hurt feelings, but buried in the middle was one sentence that caught my attention. Mom said you bought that house with Dad's money that you must have stolen from the family business somehow. I laughed out loud in my new living room, looking out at the South Platte River. They still couldn't accept it. Couldn't accept that the invisible daughter, the afterthought, the one who was just fine, had succeeded beyond their wildest imagination. I didn't respond to the email. A week after Thanksgiving, my lawyer called. Your family's attorney reached out. They're claiming you owe them compensation for family investment in your education and upbringing. They want $5 million. Tell them no. And tell them if they contact me again, I'll countersue for emotional distress and childhood neglect. I've kept every receipt, every bank statement, every document that shows exactly how much they invested in Charlotte versus me. I'll make it public. I never heard from their lawyer again. Christmas came and went. I spent it in Vail with friends I'd made in the tech world. People who knew me for what I built, not for being someone's forgotten daughter. We skied, drank expensive wine, and celebrated successes that we'd all earned. My phone stayed blissfully quiet. In January, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was Kevin, my cousin. Hey, Olivia. I know things are weird with the family, but I wanted to say what you did was awesome. You inspired me. I'm going to work hard and build something of my own, too. Thank you for showing me that it's possible. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I replied, thanks, Kevin. If you ever want advice or just to talk, I'm here. Build something you're proud of. Maybe some good did come from that disaster of a Thanksgiving after all. Charlotte got married in June. I wasn't invited. I saw the pictures on social media. It looked beautiful, exactly the kind of wedding she'd always dreamed of. The dress probably cost more than my first car. I felt nothing looking at those photos. No anger, no sadness, no satisfaction, just nothing. I was too busy building my next venture. 6 months ago, I started a new company focused on AI-driven logistics solutions. I brought in some of my best people from Chain Flow. We're already getting interest from major players. This time, I'm not building in silence. I'm on panels, giving talks, mentoring young women in tech. Last month, I was invited to speak at a tech conference at Stanford. I almost said no, but then I thought about Charlotte walking those halls, about how my parents had been so proud. I said yes. My talk was about building success from nothing, about being underestimated, about turning invisibility into an advantage. The auditorium was packed. Students hung on every word. Afterward, the Q&A session ran an hour over because people had so many questions. As I was leaving, a young woman stopped me. She looked nervous, clutching a notebook. Miss Peterson, I just wanted to say thank you. I'm a first-generation college student. I'm here on scholarship, and my family doesn't understand what I'm doing. They think I should have stayed home, gotten married, lived a simple life. Your story, it made me feel less alone. I hugged her. You're not alone. And you're going to do amazing things. Don't let anyone make you feel invisible. She left crying happy tears. And I realized something. This was better than any revenge. This was purpose. My family still tries to reach out occasionally. Mom sends cards on my birthday now, funny how she remembers it suddenly. Dad emails articles about tech like he's always been interested. Charlotte sent a message last month saying she was pregnant and thought I should know. I don't respond, not out of cruelty, but because I've built a life that doesn't include them. I have friends who celebrate my victories and support me through challenges. I have colleagues who respect my expertise. I have a future I'm excited about, filled with possibilities I created. And I have peace. Sometimes people ask if I regret how everything happened, if I wish I'd handled Thanksgiving differently. The truth is, I don't know. Maybe I could have been more tactful, less dramatic. Maybe I should have told them years ago or never told them at all. But I think about that 7-year-old girl watching her sister get a luxury car, internalizing the message that she wasn't worth investing in. I think about every dismissive comment, every forgotten moment, every time I was just fine. And I think about the woman I became despite all of that, or maybe because of it. No, I don't regret it. I earned my invisibility, and then I earned my visibility. I did it my way, on my terms. The money is nice, sure, the success is gratifying, but the best part? I finally see myself clearly. And that's worth more than $310 million, more than any validation my family could offer. I'm not invisible anymore. I'm just finally visible to the people who matter, including myself. At that Thanksgiving dinner, after I dropped the news about my company and the acquisition, after Charlotte's meltdown and Aunt Susan's scream, after all the chaos erupted, my dad just sat there, silent, staring at his plate. He didn't defend me or defend them. He didn't apologize for all those years of neglect or try to justify the inequality. He didn't congratulate me or express pride. He just sat there, fork in hand, looking like a man who realized too late that he'd bet on the wrong daughter his entire life and lost everything that mattered in the process. That silence said more than any words ever could. What would you have done in my place that Thanksgiving?